There is a battle taking place right now, a battle that no one around you can see. It isn't happening in your workplace. It isn't happening in your neighborhood. It isn't happening in your bank account. It's happening inside your mind. The amazing thing is this: the life you're living today is largely the result of the thoughts you've been believing. Think about that for a moment. Every habit, every relationship, every success, every failure, all of them were first born inside your mind. Many people spend years trying to change their surroundings while ignoring the very place where change actually begins. They try to change jobs. They try to change relationships. They try to change cities. They try to change opportunities. Yet the same patterns continue to follow them because the battlefield inside has never been won. Here's the truth that can transform your entire future. You will never consistently live beyond the level of your thinking. If your mind is filled with fear, fear will eventually shape your actions. If your mind is filled with doubt, doubt will quietly steal opportunities before they even arrive. If your mind is filled with defeat, you'll surrender long before the battle is over. But if your mind is filled with faith, if it's filled with courage, if it's filled with hope, then even impossible situations begin to look different. Today's message may completely change the way you think about your life. Because we're not simply talking about positive thinking. We're talking about taking authority over the very thoughts that have been controlling you for years. By the end of this message, you'll discover practical principles that can help you stop living as a prisoner of fear, anxiety, negativity, and limitation. You'll learn why so many people lose battles they were actually capable of winning. You'll discover how lasting transformation always begins from the inside out. And most importantly, you'll understand how to train your mind to work for you instead of against you. So don't leave halfway through. The final principles are often the ones that unlock everything that came before. Stay with me until the very end, because your greatest breakthrough may begin with just one renewed thought. Life has a way of reminding us that we are not in control of everything. Storms arrive without warning. Opportunities sometimes disappear just when we thought they were within reach. People may disappoint us. Circumstances may change overnight, and plans we carefully built can suddenly fall apart. If our peace depends entirely on everything around us going exactly the way we want, then we will spend much of our lives frustrated and anxious. But there is one area where you always have a choice, regardless of what is happening around you. You have the power to choose your response. That choice is one of the greatest gifts you possess, and it has the power to shape your future more than any circumstance ever could. Many people believe their emotions are controlled by what happens to them. But while events may influence your feelings, they do not have to determine your actions. Two people can experience the same disappointment and respond in completely different ways. One allows bitterness to take root, becoming discouraged and convinced that nothing good will ever happen again. The other chooses to learn from the experience, refuses to surrender hope, and continues moving forward with renewed determination. The difference is not in the situation they faced, but in the mindset they chose to embrace. A disciplined mind understands that reacting impulsively often creates greater problems than the original challenge. When someone speaks harshly, the natural temptation is to respond with anger. When fear begins to whisper, the instinct may be to panic. When uncertainty surrounds us, we may feel tempted to make decisions based solely on emotion. Yet, wisdom teaches us to pause before we respond. A moment of self-control can prevent years of regret. The strongest people are not those who never face difficult emotions. They are those who refuse to let those emotions become their master. Every day presents countless opportunities to exercise this kind of discipline. You may wake up feeling discouraged, but you can choose gratitude instead of complaint. You may encounter criticism, but you can choose humility instead of defensiveness. You may face delays that test your patience, but you can choose perseverance instead of frustration. These choices may seem small in the moment, but repeated over time, they shape your character and determine the direction of your life. Great victories are rarely the result of one dramatic decision. More often, they are built through thousands of quiet choices made consistently over many days. There will always be voices competing for your attention. Some voices tell you to give up because the challenge is too great. Others encourage fear by focusing only on everything that could go wrong. The world often rewards quick reactions, emotional outbursts, and instant opinions. But a person who has learned to govern their mind does not allow every voice to become their guide. Instead, they choose thoughts that produce peace rather than panic, wisdom rather than confusion, and hope rather than despair. This kind of self-control is not weakness. It is one of the highest forms of strength. Consider the people who inspire us most. They are not admired because they lived easy lives free from hardship. They are admired because when adversity came, they responded with courage instead of fear, patience instead of anger, and determination instead of surrender. Their circumstances did not define them, because they understood that while they could not always choose the battle, they could always choose the attitude with which they faced it. That is what allowed them to overcome challenges that seemed impossible to others. This truth becomes especially important during seasons of uncertainty. There will be times when answers are delayed, when the future seems unclear, and when progress appears slower than expected. During those moments, your response will determine whether you grow stronger or become discouraged. Worry cannot solve tomorrow's problems, and panic has never created a better future. A calm and disciplined mind is able to think clearly, recognize opportunities, and make wise decisions even in difficult circumstances. Instead of allowing fear to dictate every move, it chooses to trust that today's challenge is only one chapter of a much larger story. Choosing your response does not mean pretending difficulties do not exist. It does not require ignoring pain or denying disappointment. Rather, it means refusing to let those experiences become the final authority over your life. You acknowledge the challenge, but you also choose resilience. You recognize the setback, but you continue believing that new opportunities can emerge. You face uncertainty, but you refuse to surrender your peace. That is the mark of a disciplined mind. When you begin to understand that your response is more powerful than your circumstances, you stop living as a victim of whatever happens around you. You become intentional instead of reactive, hopeful instead of fearful, and steadfast instead of unstable. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to grow in wisdom, patience, and character. Over time, these choices transform not only the way you think, but also the way you live. While you may never control every situation life brings, you can always decide the kind of person you will become in the middle of it. And that decision has the power to change the entire course of your life. True transformation is rarely the result of one extraordinary moment. It is most often the outcome of ordinary decisions made faithfully day after day. Many people long for instant change. They want one breakthrough, one inspiring message, or one life-changing event to erase years of unhealthy thinking. While those moments can certainly spark hope, Lasting change happens when the mind is renewed consistently. Just as a house is built one brick at a time, a strong and disciplined mind is developed one thought at a time. The life you desire is not created by occasional inspiration, but by daily renewal. The human mind is constantly absorbing information. Every conversation, every headline, every social media post, every memory, and every experience leaves an impression. If you are not intentional about what you allow into your mind, it will gradually be filled with fear, comparison, negativity, and doubt. Before long, those thoughts begin influencing your decisions without you even realizing it. This is why mental renewal is not something you do once and forget. It is a daily commitment to replacing destructive thoughts with truth, replacing hopelessness with expectation, and replacing discouragement with confidence. Many people unknowingly rehearse the same negative story every day. They replay past failures, remember old disappointments, and focus on every reason why success seems impossible. The more they repeat those thoughts, the more deeply they become rooted. Eventually, they stop questioning them and begin accepting them as facts. But just because a thought enters your mind does not mean it deserves to stay there. You have the ability to challenge destructive thinking and replace it with thoughts that strengthen rather than weaken you. Renewal begins the moment you stop agreeing with lies about your future and start embracing beliefs that lead to growth and purpose. Imagine waking up every morning with a deliberate decision to direct your thoughts, instead of allowing your emotions to control them. Instead of beginning the day with worry about everything that might go wrong, you choose gratitude for another opportunity to grow. Instead of dwelling on yesterday's mistakes, you focus on today's possibilities. Instead of comparing your journey to someone else's, you commit yourself to becoming better than you were yesterday. These small choices may seem insignificant, but they accumulate over time, creating remarkable change that others eventually notice. Daily renewal also requires patience. We often become discouraged because we do not see immediate results. We expect years of fear to disappear overnight or habits developed over decades to change within a few days. Real growth rarely works that way. Consider a tree planted in fertile soil. Day after day it receives water and sunlight. At first, little appears to be happening. Yet beneath the surface, roots are growing stronger. Eventually, what was invisible becomes visible. In the same way, every positive thought you choose, every act of self-discipline you practice, and every decision to reject negativity is strengthening the foundation of your life. Even if the results are not immediately obvious, there will be days when old thoughts try to return. Fear may whisper that nothing has changed. Doubt may remind you of past failures. Discouragement may tell you that your efforts are pointless. Those are the moments when consistency matters most. A renewed mind does not give up simply because progress feels slow. It understands that lasting transformation is built through persistence. Every time you reject a destructive thought and replace it with one that inspires courage, you are reinforcing a healthier pattern. Over time, what once required great effort begins to become your natural way of thinking. Renewing your mind also changes the way you see challenges. Instead of viewing obstacles as proof that you cannot succeed, you begin to see them as opportunities to grow stronger. Instead of interpreting delays as permanent defeats, you recognize that they may be seasons of preparation. This shift in perspective does not remove every difficulty from your life, but it changes the way you respond to those difficulties. A renewed mind looks beyond temporary setbacks and keeps its focus on long-term purpose rather than short-term emotions. Another important part of daily renewal is being mindful of the influences that shape your thinking. The people you spend time with, the words you repeatedly hear, and the content you consume all have an impact on your mindset. If you constantly surround yourself with negativity, criticism, and hopelessness, it becomes much harder to maintain a positive outlook. On the other hand, when you intentionally seek wisdom, encouragement, and truth, your thinking begins to reflect those influences. Protecting your mind is not about isolating yourself from the world. It is about being intentional with what you allow to shape your beliefs. As your thinking changes, your actions begin to change as well. You become more disciplined because you believe your choices matter. You become more resilient because you understand that setbacks are temporary. You become more confident because your identity is no longer based on past failures, but on the person you are becoming. Others may notice your transformation before you even recognize it yourself. They will see greater peace where anxiety once ruled, greater patience where frustration once dominated, and greater courage where fear once held you back. The journey of renewing your mind is not about achieving perfection. It is about making steady progress every single day. Some days will be easier than others, but every decision to think differently moves you one step closer to the life you were meant to live. Lasting transformation is not the result of one dramatic moment. It is the reward of countless faithful choices. When you commit yourself to daily mental renewal, you are not simply changing the way you think. You are changing the direction of your life, one thought, one decision, and one day at a time. The greatest battles in life are not always the ones that take place in front of other people. Some of the most important victories are won in silence, where no audience is watching and no applause is heard. Before a person overcomes challenges in the world around them, they must first overcome the struggles within their own mind. Fear, doubt, insecurity, resentment, discouragement, and negative thinking often become stronger enemies than any external obstacle. Many people spend years trying to conquer circumstances while ignoring the inner battles that quietly shape every decision they make. Yet the truth remains, the strongest person is not necessarily the one who defeats others, but the one who learns to master themselves. Every day, your mind becomes a battlefield where different voices compete for your attention. One voice reminds you of every mistake you have ever made and insists that you are destined to repeat them. Another voice tells you that your dreams are too big, your abilities are too small, and your future is already decided by your past. These thoughts often arrive quietly, disguising themselves as reality rather than opinion. If left unchallenged, they begin to influence the way you see yourself, the way you treat others, and the way you approach every opportunity that comes your way. The danger of these inner battles is that they often go unnoticed. People may appear successful on the outside, while privately struggling with constant anxiety, fear, or feelings of inadequacy. They smile in public. But inside they are exhausted from fighting thoughts that never seem to stop. This is why outward success alone can never guarantee inward peace. Until the battle within is addressed, external achievements will never fully satisfy the heart. Real freedom begins when you refuse to let destructive thoughts control your identity or determine your future. Fear is one of the greatest opponents you will ever face. Its goal is not always to stop you completely, but to convince you that taking the next step is too risky. Fear exaggerates obstacles and minimizes your potential. It whispers that failure is certain before you have even tried. It convinces people to remain in places where they are comfortable, rather than pursuing the purpose they were created to fulfill. Yet history consistently shows that extraordinary achievements belong to ordinary people who chose to move forward despite their fears. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision that fear will not have the final word. Doubt works in a similar way. It questions your abilities, your decisions, and even your worth. Left unchecked, doubt creates hesitation, and hesitation often causes missed opportunities. Many dreams never become reality, not because they were impossible, but because doubt persuaded people to quit before they truly began. The mind that constantly questions its own ability eventually limits its own potential. But when you replace doubt with confidence built on truth, your perspective changes. You begin to see challenges not as barriers, but as opportunities to grow stronger and wiser. Another battle many people face is the struggle against comparison. In a world where it is easy to measure your life against the lives of others, comparison quietly steals contentment and joy. It causes you to focus on what someone else has achieved instead of appreciating the unique path before you. The moment you begin measuring your worth by another person's success, you lose sight of your own progress. True victory is not found in competing with everyone around you. It is found in becoming a better version of yourself than you were yesterday. Your journey is unique, and your purpose cannot be fulfilled by trying to imitate someone else's story. Winning the battle within also requires learning the discipline of forgiveness. Holding on to bitterness may feel justified, but over time it becomes a prison that limits your own peace more than it affects anyone else. Unforgiveness fills the mind with anger and resentment, leaving little room for hope or healing. Choosing to forgive does not mean pretending that wrong actions never happened. It means deciding that the pain of the past will no longer control the direction of your future. Freedom begins when you release what has been weighing down your heart. One of the most powerful truths you can embrace is that you are not powerless against your thoughts. You are not obligated to believe every fear that enters your mind or every negative opinion that tries to define you. Thoughts may come without invitation, but you have the authority to decide which ones deserve your attention. You can reject thoughts that produce hopelessness and choose thoughts that produce strength. You can replace defeat with determination, despair with hope, and confusion with clarity. Every time you make that choice, you are winning another battle within. This victory is not achieved once and for all. It is a daily commitment to guarding your mind, directing your thoughts, and refusing to surrender to negativity. There will always be new challenges, unexpected setbacks, and moments of uncertainty. But each challenge becomes an opportunity to strengthen your character rather than weaken your resolve. Every battle you overcome prepares you for the next season of life, making you wiser, stronger, and more resilient than before. When you finally learn to master the battles within, everything around you begins to change. Your decisions become clearer because they are no longer driven by fear. Your relationships improve because bitterness no longer controls your heart. Your confidence grows because it is built on truth instead of temporary emotions. Most importantly, you discover a peace that cannot be taken away by changing circumstances. The greatest victory you will ever experience is not found in conquering the world around you. It is found in conquering the fears, doubts, and limitations within. Once you win that battle, you are prepared to face every challenge life places before you with courage, wisdom, and unwavering determination.